How we doing? So, big news out of the PLL, first American league to reopen their season. Rollwoods. Something that they probably based this off of was Korean baseball. Korean baseball right now is, I think, like really the only sport besides maybe like NASCAR that's kind of going on. So, team sport wise, yeah, fucking PLO's out there being one of the first teams trying to be innovative in the way that they're going to do this. So, you hear these interviews with Paul Rabel, and it's kind of like quick and it's not very in depth. So I'm going to try to be a little bit more in depth and a little bit more straightforward about what the fuck's going on. So, it's 14 games. I think what it is you play game one, like that's your game one, and then you play two, three. I don't think it's like 14 games overall, because that wouldn't make sense. That'd be 2 games per team. So I'm pretty sure it's 14 games in like 2 weeks. The 25th of July to the 2nd of fucking August. Something that's gonna be pretty significant with this is you have guys who haven't been training, haven't been in training camps, are kind of just gonna fucking climb out of their fucking house. They have ample time. You have more than fucking 2 months to get into it. But you're taking these guys in non-game based situations, and you're just gonna bring them in with a fairly quick turnover, and then you're gonna bring them into this game. So injuries may be um, a factor, especially when you're playing one, two, three, four, five, 6 games. Your middle 6 games are back-to-back games, so it's gonna be pretty wild. And then after that, you have a single game elimination. I think it's the first team has a bye, and then the rest of the teams play it out. And then by the ninth, you'll have a championship. So a couple of things, we're not sure where it's going to be, televised. Are they going to televise all the games? Is it going to be an NBC Gold thing? I would think, NBC would probably at least want to put on the major ones. Like maybe you just throw it on NBC Sports, or maybe you throw all of them on. I don't know. It's a live sport, so people are probably feeding for something. Who knows where it's going to be. They already had previous places put out. Like they were coming to Stony Brook to play. I'm pretty sure they were going back to Albany to play. They had already said I think like the Maryland, the whole East Coast area, I think was already planned out. So do they go to a college? I think the best case scenario for them would be go to a college. You'll have dorms for the personnel. You'll have a place to eat. You'll have a food hall. You'll have your medical staff. You'll have your athletic training room. You'll have doctors. And while personally speaking, Stony Brook would be a solid fit, but also not a solid fit because it's so close to a hospital. It's so close to a hospital, so it's good because injury risk is going up. So while you're not working prophylactically, you can work, reactively the best you can. I mean, well, you work prophylactically the best you can, and then reactively also the best you can. So it's easier to get them to somewhere they need to be. Not like that's not fucking everywhere else though. You don't need a stage 1 trauma center or stage 5. I forget how it goes. You don't need a great trauma center to just host fucking lacrosse games. But you'll have that. So you have players, personnel. I would say bring chefs, so no one has to leave. Just like have all the food there. No one's going out. You mean you can obviously go out, like that's your own fucking risk, but don't minimize it. You have all these guys. Who knows where we'll be in fucking July? But minimize risk and don't make it fucking crazy. Um, So you have coaches. I would say bring like fucking chefs. You have players. You have You'll have like RJ there doing fucking vlogs and shit. You'll have your medical staff. You'll have your fucking media staff, and that they say rounds out to 300 people. 300 people, really? I mean, ain't that bad. You could give pretty much everyone like their own fucking room and like a nice ass fucking thing. Like again, for Stony Brook, you could put them in one of the newer buildings right next to the fucking stadium. So you'd have the stadium, you'd have East Side dining, and you would have um, this the place where they'd live, all right next to each other. So that'd be pretty easy. I know a decent amount of guys already live on Long Island. Um, fucking off the top of my head, I mean, you had the two coaches, TK and Channy. You got guys like Farrell or whatever. You got guys like I don't know if Perk is from New York. I know Matt Kavanaugh is from New York. You got you got a whole bunch of dudes who are from the area, and I don't have to go through all of them. So how it's gonna go is, you got the game one, next two games, next two games, next two games, and I think they're all like back to back to back to back to back. It's 25th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 30th, 31st, 1st, 2nd, and you have one day off going into playoffs. So that number one seed might be like the biggest number one seed thing ever, man. Like that's fucking nuts. Like to have that extra day off, you'd actually have a bunch of fucking days off. You'd have the third off, the fourth off, the fifth off, and then you'd play in your semifinal game. So you'd have 3 full days of rest compared to the other team's 1 day of rest game, 1 day of rest. Which could be huge. Which could be huge. You'll see a lot of guys having to fight their injuries, having to just fucking. There's the end of this 2 weeks. I hope that they've been staying in shape, man, because it's not gonna be fucking easy. It's gonna be a real, more than a fucking physical toll. It's gonna be a mental toll. You're gonna have to make sure that you come in and you're in fucking great shape. Hopefully, not too many guys were fucking just in there making TikToks all the time and actually getting themselves together. What will be also interesting is the draft coming up. So you got a couple guys. Someone that's been talked about a lot on Unbuckled Chin Straps is like Grant Ament has been going around. Other than that, fucking I don't fucking know any of these guys. Um, you could always bet guys from Penn State, Notre Dame, Syracuse, Yale, fucking all good ones. Can't really go wrong there. But it'll be interesting seeing these college kids who, I guess if you're at that level of the game, hopefully at that point you're taking it a little bit more seriously than most guys would be, because you'd think like, oh my god, like I could be playing again in 3 months, two and a half, 3 months, something like that. So going from that break, hopefully they've been staying in shape, but it's hard, not only for being a regular fucking person sitting at home, say you're by yourself, or say you're just with your family, and say you live in like a fucking apartment, or say you live in like Brooklyn or something, or say you live in, um, not a suburb, compared to people who live like upstate New York, people who live in like, who have big yards, big houses, have those amenities, put at them. Something I've noticed is, if I were making my own house, my basement would have, one finished side and then an unfinished side or unfinished, that would have, tile on the floor for stick handling, or tile on the floor, maybe the entire thing, and I would just fucking rollerblade around. That would be something that I would want to put in my own house. Some of these guys are at that point where they probably have that stuff. But you've been seeing people like Paul Rabel, someone who has been trying to get around the fact that, he doesn't have all the space in the world. So you see him doing stuff on his front lawn, doing fucking silly shit. Ah, man is fucking hairy, man. He needs to put on a shirt more often too. Freaking wild. And then you see him in like the parking garages too, like shooting shit at the fucking wall, trying to hit the X and whatnot. So it's interesting seeing the way to get creative, especially at home, not having these weightlifting room amenities and things that we had taken as privileges in the sports science field. So now we're getting to the point where it's like, while you're not working on power before the season, at this point before the season, you could still be gaining muscle and gaining strength. You don't really have to start your endurance until, I mean, I would max personally, I would start endurance, start leaning towards endurance, maybe a month before, and then really start getting into endurance, maybe 2.5 weeks before. And by the time those last 2 weeks, you're really kicking it. You're really feeling like you're in good cardiovascular shape. And then from there, once the season really starts, you could kind of start moving into some power things. They don't really have that right now, though. They don't have the proper. They most likely don't have the proper equipment to put those specific um, demands on their body for the adaptations needed. Not having a weight room, not having a field, not having space, all things that it's going to be interesting, not only seeing guys like fucking Scotty Rogers is stuck in fucking Florida compared to guys who, like Perkovic, for example. I'm looking at his fucking Instagram. He's got weights at his place. He's got the whole fucking play. He's got like the whole field and stuff. He's living like in a farm and whatever. So you see guys like, for example, Ross Johnson on the Islanders. He's got a freaking farm right now. You don't think that might be more taxing than their weight room lifts and stuff like that? Dawn to dusk. That's hard work. That's staying in shape. So it's easy when you have stuff like that compared to younger guys that might not have all the same amenities, but they have the youth on the side. So this is when you get into that scale like you're young, so you can handle all that load that they'll bring in. Maybe since you're also young, you don't have the greatest neuromuscular coordination and muscle recruitment to prevent injuries and stuff like that. Maybe you don't have the proper development of some of these muscles, and maybe that leads you more towards injury as you fatigue. So you'll see like that fatigue go up, and then that risk go up, but you're also younger, so you're like you have a little bit more leeway. You're not gonna like die as quickly for figurative purposes. But then on the other hand, you have these older guys who, what they know what they're doing. At this point, they probably have the good techniques, routines, muscle recruitments. They know where their weaknesses probably lie. New ones come, but they don't have the big ones like they probably did coming into it. And then, but you have to, you got to be wary about these guys, these older dudes. Not just fucking beating them to death. Um, but I know a lot of guys like Joe Walters, um, loves to say, best shape in the league. Rob Pannell, however the fuck you say his last name. That'll be interesting for him to come in, and he says that he's in the best shape. So fucking Rob, let's see if you're really the best. If you can come through and like really impress everyone throughout a triathlon, fucking crazy like stretch of games, that'd really be saying something. So to all those guys who go on unbuckled chin strap and say that they're in the best shape in the PLL or in lacrosse in general, in the sport of lacrosse. This is really your fucking time to prove it, man. So we're watching. We're watching.